So hopefully that'll be the subject of an upcoming story next week about Kim Anderson, what he's doing at Pittsburgh State, and how that transition has kind of suited him. He definitely felt like he was in a comfortable spot. I think being at Pitt State affords him the chance to do things that he wasn't able to do at Mizzou. That's something that was important to him. So it sounded like he had moved on from Mizzou, and he was happy with where he was at. So you can read all about that in next week's paper.
Yeah, it's good. It's good. It's nice to see. It's nice to hear about him being happy where he's at. Because obviously, he had a tough go of it when he was here at Mizzou, and obviously that was his dream job for a while. But it's nice to kind of see him happy, or at least content where he's at. I'm sure he'd rather be coaching Mizzou still.
I got that impression too. And if you're just now tuning in to our Facebook Live, we're talking about Kim Anderson, who coached in Jeff City against Lincoln University. Yesterday, a couple questions had come up about Mizzou. And, he was willing to talk about it a little bit, but I think he definitely felt like, he was ready to move on from that situation. And so he didn't talk at length about it, just said, it's water under the bridge. He mentioned that he hasn't really communicated with the players very much. He said they're Konzo's players now, and I want to respect that. So he's kind of been hands off. He said he hasn't watched a game this year. Of course, he's been busy coaching Pitt State. They're, I believe, 9-7, 9-8 after winning just 5 games all last season.
Haven't won a road game.
They have not. And we will leave that right there.
Yeah, exactly. Some things haven't changed.
We will leave that right there. But it was good to talk to Kim and catch up with him, and also speak with the Pitt State athletic director about bringing him on as well. So again, you can look for that story next week about Kim Anderson. Let's see. We've had football news. We've had a basketball game. We've had a women's basketball game.
Yeah. This is what we call a jam-packed podcast.
This is, as all of them are, I think you might say. First, start with football. Derek Dooley spoke today to reporters for the first time since being announced as the offensive coordinator. A lot of questions about his pedigree, seeing as he has not been an offensive coordinator or a quarterback's coach ever through 22 years of coaching. He basically answered the question by saying, there's a lot of things that I ended up coaching that I'd never coached before.
Right.
For example, he came from the Dallas Cowboys where he was a wide receivers coach. And, before that, he had been an offensive assistant and a defensive assistant. He's done a lot of different things. And, of course, he has experience as a head coach, too. So that was kind of how he answered the question. There were a lot of questions, too, about the style of offense. Right. That was a big one. I mean, Josh Heupel made a name, not just, calling the plays and having a successful offense, but for the unique nature of his offense, how fast it was, the spread, up-tempo. So Derek Dooley kind of just said, we're going to be multiple and flexible. And he said, I've run a pro-style offense in the past, but, who knows what that means anymore, right. Basically. So you can maybe expect Drew. Coach Odom said, Drew's never taken a snap under center, and he's going to have to learn to do that.
Yeah.
So you can expect some things to change a little bit with what they do. You'll probably see some looks next year that Mizzou, you haven't seen Mizzou run in a really, really long time, I would expect. But I would also expect them to still run at a pretty quick tempo, at a quick pace. I think that Coach Dooley was pretty right. Set on doing that. Right. So, yeah, it's kind of hard to speculate now in January with the season 8 months away. Right. But that's kind of – I think they're keeping it open. They did talk a lot, too, about adjusting to their personnel. So I think whatever plan they do will be kind of based on what the personnel is, and they'll go from there instead of coming in with this is going to be our right. offense and making everybody else adjust.
I know I saw that – and I wasn't there, but I know I saw some tweets from people about Barry saying that – last year's team, we've talked about it, just – was so fast that the defense couldn't keep up. Not even just the opponent's defense, but Mizzou's defense. Because when you go in that fast and you go 3 and out, you're only on the field for a minute. You know what I mean? So I wonder if that's something that they adjust. I think they still, just because of the personnel you have, I think they're still going to be up tempo. Or even if that's going to happen.
I think, they did talk about that, and that's kind of been what Mizzou's offense, like the critics of Mizzou's offense have said forever, is, what happens when you get a 3 and out? You have to kick it in 17 seconds. Right. Well, yeah. Even if you don't run up tempo and you go 3 and out, that's a 17-second possession if you're up tempo or not.
Yeah.
I think going 3 and out kills any offense. It seems to hurt Mizzou's even more because in this, it has just felt like when Mizzou gets 1 first down, then they're able to extend drives. They haven't felt like a team that stalls out a lot, unless it stalls out in the beginning. And a lot of their offense is predicated on big plays. They were one of the best big play offenses in the country last year. And so, a drive can't stall out if you throw a 70-yard touchdown.
Sure.
So the thoughts just look really bad. And, that's obviously something that you want to change, but it doesn't really matter what offense you run. Some offenses are going to go 3 and out. And if you're a passing offense, then you're going to go 3 and out sometimes because you have incomplete passes and you're behind the sticks. So, yeah, that was something they talked about. And, they talked about playing smart. And when you have a lead, playing smart with the lead, knowing when you can afford to take risks with the ball and when you can't. Typical, I think, offensive coordinator stuff. But, yeah, that's definitely something that's going to be a hot button issue next year with whatever they decide to do. If they keep the up-tempo, that'll continue to be a talking point is, hey, what about, keeping possession? That wasn't something Mizzou was ever doing under Josh Heupel.
Now, did they say at all how much? I know we talked about this on the last podcast about just his influence on this. Obviously, Drew's coming back. We'll touch on that in a little bit. But I guess did they say anything about kind of just what his influence or him and Dooley have even talked?
Yeah, so it definitely didn't sound like a situation where he was Drew's guy.
Okay.
It was a situation where it was Barry's guy. Barry had talked to him and had conversations with him, and I think there was some thought of what he could bring for Drew next season. Barry said you don't want to make a decision on a coordinator for a quarterback that's coming back for 9 months.
Right.
But at the same time, you have to understand that Drew's a special talent,
right.
And you got to do everything you can to maximize that talent. So, and Derek Dooley said, there's a lot of things. If we play multiple and we kind of develop some flexibility, he mentioned giving Drew some more responsibility than he's had before. Yeah, a couple of years ago, Drew was just making reads on one side of the field, and rarely was he, making his own doubles up the line. It sounds like they're going to maybe change some of those things, give him more responsibility. And Derek Dooley said with the hope that will make us more flexible, it will give us the opportunity to do different things and maybe help us win. And as a side, it'll help him personally too.
Yeah.
So I think that Houston, that his decision was going to, whether he stays or goes, was going to be partially based on who was coming in.
Right.
Which also, if you kind of look at that and you think, well, maybe that'll affect who Mizzou brings in. Yeah. It doesn't sound like it was like, hey, Drew, what do you think? It was Barry Odom's decision. I think that was considered. I don't think it was the reason that they brought in Derek Dooley, but I think it was a consideration. How can he help Drew in his final year and really make the most out of his senior year?
Yeah. Obviously, the big news that came in after Dooley was Drew Lock's coming back.
Yes.
That was, he had a really cool video.
Pretty cool.
Pretty sweet video.
Those have just gotten better and better. Yeah. That is a booming business. Is if you can find an athlete and make their hype video.
Yeah.
I don't know if those people get paid.
Oh yeah. Probably not the high school ones who the high school kids.
Yeah, probably not.
And I imagine the college kids that used to go to Mizzou, and I imagine a Mizzou student did Drew's, just like they do like the Mizzou basketball ones and stuff like that.
Yeah. I know Mizzou has their own graphics department who does stuff like that. And they do a good job. Mizzou's graphics department is one of the best that I've seen.
Right. Yes. Yeah,
they're pretty on brand, you might say.
Hey, GMP.
Exactly.
I loved the Drew Lock securing the bag image or video in there. I was like, you can't have a Drew Lock returning video without him securing the bag.
I thought it was significant. You watch that video, that's the first you see of Drew Lock, is him doing that. So it was kind of like, the last you saw of Drew Lock was him getting humbled at the Texas Bowl and Tom Herman making fun of him with the print, singing around with the backpack, and then him having to answer to that. So it was almost like Drew Lock kind of taking it back.
Yeah.
Like, I'm going to own it for my senior year. And then you had Jaden Ironman at the wrestling meet. Did you see that yesterday?
Yeah.
Jaden Ironman pinned a guy from Buffalo, got up, secured the bag.
so it's going all around.
And then Drew Lock quote tweeted on that. So, yeah, it's kind of becoming a Mizzou thing. Awesome. I thought it was significant that was his first image. I didn't think that was by accident.
No, it'd be funny if, like, Jeremiah Tillman dunks on Saturday and then walks down the court.
That would be fantastic.
That'd be awesome. Or Konzo walks into a press conference securing the bag. Can you imagine Konzo Bart securing the bag? That'd be awesome.
Konzo,
that'd be one of the greatest
things. He's standing up behind the podium like he does, and he just adjusts his straps and tightens it.
What are you doing? The kids say this is securing the bag. in his deep voice that he has.
I'm surprised Sophie hasn't done that one yet, but I think Sophie's catalog of dance moves is kind of it's kind of out there.
Yeah.
I don't think she draws from like the mainstream.
Right. That mean for Mizzou?
It's huge. Yeah. It means everything for this offense. He returns obviously 44 touchdowns, over almost 4,000 yards. Has a chance to break some career records that are held by Chase Daniel next year. It just opens you up. And it's not just Drew Lock coming back. He's the key to everything, but you also have 5 starting offensive linemen coming back, 2 starting wide receivers coming back, and Demaria Crockett and Larry Roundtree, neither of which were considered starters. Right. So you said, like, Mizzou has 9 starters coming back because Jamon and Ish were on the starting, but you also have like 2 feature backs coming back. So that offense will pretty much be intact for next year. So that will be the problem for Derek Dooley. Whatever happens next year on offense, it will not be because they didn't have the talent coming back. Yeah, it's huge for a lot of reasons for Mizzou, and I think that there's a really good chance that Drew Lock is top 10 next year. Maybe he's the best quarterback prospect in the draft next year, and that'll be exciting too. Just to see a Mizzou prospect with that kind of pro potential. I think it's pretty rare at this school for as prominent as Mizzou athletics are. It just having somebody at that level that has that sort of potential to be a star professional athlete is pretty rare. So that'll be kind of fun to watch next year, as it will with some other basketball players that are probably going to be draft prospects. Did you see today?
I saw John Taylor's first round pick in the
Bleacher Report's mock draft.
Yeah. It doesn't surprise me. It's talented.
Yeah. I mean, that's always been. He has the skill set of a guard in a 6'11" body.
Yeah, that's dangerous. Imagine when he just kind of gets built into his body a little bit more. He could be dangerous in the NBA. I really think so.
Yeah.
I just don't think he's adjusted to his body size. He kind of still looks low.
Still kind of like a draft, like a baby draft.
Yeah, exactly. But really quick on Mizzou football, where you had Mizzou basketball.
Yes.
Obviously loaded schedule next year. I believe they have Alabama and Georgia next year.
Yeah, at Alabama and home against Georgia.
What do you? I guess with Drew coming back, what does that do for Missouri's expectations, SEC wise?
Well, SEC East, Mizzou is ahead a lot of teams in having to start from scratch, basically, because they were so late. I mean, not getting around on their coaching staff and everything. That's tough, especially with an early signing period. Right. If you're unsettled for that, then it hurts. I think they're ahead of Tennessee. I think they're ahead of probably where Florida will be next year. Florida has a lot of talent, and they'll be good on defense like they always are. But I think they'll be ahead of Florida just with the talent that they have coming back and the coaching staff, having a plan in place. I think they'll be ahead of Vanderbilt and probably ahead of Kentucky, which will lose a lot on the offensive side next year too.
Right.
So that means you're a top 3 team in the SEC East. And even in a weak division like the SEC East, that's pretty good. That puts you on par with probably South Carolina, and I don't think anybody's going to be in Georgia's league. Maybe just Alabama and the whole SEC next year. But I think there's a possibility that Mizzou could be one of the 2 or 3 best teams in the SEC East next year. They just have so much coming back, and they have a lot of talent. And if they can figure out how to get things going at the beginning of the year as opposed to the middle to the end of the year, then they'll be a dangerous team.
It's tough for them because Georgia brings so much back.
Yeah.
They're going to be loaded next year.
Yeah. They're going to be really, really good.
It's a tough spot for them. But yes, I agree. I think Mizzou's probably one of the 2 or 3 best teams in that division right now. I just don't think that there's any touching Alabama or Georgia.
Right, and Mizzou's non-conference next year, it's nothing super scary. They go to Purdue. They will also play, I believe, Tennessee Martin as like their early game against a lower tier opponent. Thinking to some of the other teams that they're scheduled to play. I believe Memphis. I'd have to go back and double check on that at some point, maybe while you're. But anyway, yeah. But that conference schedule, like this year, they had to host Auburn, which is obviously a tough draw. But almost any team that you draw out of the West is going to be really tough. So that's just going to be a tough crossover game every year. This year, they have to go to Alabama. So
which is even worse. Right. Now, and the thing with Alabama is that freshman quarterback is going to be around for a little while. And he's talented.
Yeah.
I'm not even going to try to pronounce his name.
Tua? I know it's Tua. We just call him Tua.
Yeah. But he's talented. He can really sling the ball. And that's something Alabama hasn't had in a while.
Mm-hmm. Can you imagine Alabama with the best quarterback in the SEC?
That'd be nuts. And with they'll still
it's laughable.
Right.
That's what it is.
And they'll still have running backs who look like linebackers.
You mentioned that during the game, and that was a very astute comment because they do, especially Scarborough.
He's literally a linebacker running back.
Could you imagine? I mean, just that guy running at you in a dark alley somewhere would he wouldn't even have to hit you. You'd be dead before he got within 5 feet.
So out.
Yeah.
Paul Cunningham. Thank you for
some star power.
Yeah, some star power.
Yeah.
Shout out to the women's basketball team and Sylvie Cunningham. Paul, if you're still around, we're going to talk about the women's basketball team here in a little bit, so check back.
Yeah.
But to your comment about Mizzou football, non-conference, they host UT Martin to start the year, host Wyoming second week, go to Purdue, and then they host Memphis on homecoming.
Okay.
That's their non-conference.
So Memphis is obviously a really good team.
Yeah.
How much they'll bring back next year will be interesting.
Right.
But yeah, that's not a real terrifying non-conference slate when the toughest, test for you is going to Purdue.
Right.
Yeah. So yeah,
and it's lucky, and it's nice timing. Not only say lucky, but nice timing that Wyoming's quarterback is now in the draft.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You're getting a Wyoming team that's, having its star quarterback.
Right.
So I think expectations will be high.
Yeah.
Again, we're a long way out, but I think they'll be pretty high for Mizzou next season.
Okay. Any other football-related stuff?
I don't think so. Another story cooking up for next week. AJ Afadale is named the 10th assistant. Details on that were pretty scarce, like what he'll be doing and what his contract details are. He's been out of town all week at a coaches conference, so looking forward to talking with him just about his new opportunity. And he's climbed the coaching scale pretty quick after leaving Rockbridge. He was at Rockbridge for a while, for 13 years, but now that he's out, he's got it pretty quickly.
And we both, usually you don't really kind of put your opinion in on these things, but we both know AJ pretty well.
Yeah.
He's a great guy.
He's just, AJ, I can say this, I think, pretty objectively. He is an awesome person to talk to. Yes. Just about anything, because he's such a thoughtful guy about football. He will, every conversation with AJ about football is like, it's like a session, like a class session. Like, I feel like I learn a lot, and his thoughts on the recruiting process, getting kids recruited when he was at Rockbridge, like getting his own players recruited, and then at Mizzou, his thoughts on going out and finding guys. He's a very thoughtful and procedural guy. Right. He's got a lot of good thoughts. He's wise.
Right. He's like Conzo in that sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're both very wise with what they do. Both very easy to talk to. And they don't have a problem talking to you for however long you need to.
Yeah, I agree with that. It's one little story that I got from Joe Collier about AJ. Joe Collier, from Rockbridge. You knew him well as on the prep beat as Rockbridge's coach. Last year, Rockbridge's football coach last year. He's the defensive coordinator and served under AJ for a long time there. So I was talking with Joe about AJ and just kind of, like the kind of culture of the program, was, what it was like when AJ was there and what Joe learned from AJ. Right. And he told this story about how when AJ was the coach there, you had to use the right terminology. Like, for example, if you're a linebacker and the offense is running a sweep play, your job is to contain. Right. Not, hey, you got to get out there and bring the guy back. Contain. Use the word contain. Right. It was all about terminology. Like, all the coaches have to use the same terminology because you're trying to instill these things to where they're instinct in a person's mind. Right. So it's just kind of like things you wouldn't normally think about.
Right. And at the same time, like while you're trying to win in high school, you're also trying to teach kids things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
exactly. We're going to race against the clock. Because you and I are both looking at our recorder. And
I looked up and I was like, I hope you see this.
It is flashing low battery. So we have a race against the clock now. But let's talk about men's basketball. They just beat Georgia.
Yeah.
Beat the pants off of Georgia.
Yeah, especially in the second half. I mean, that first half was like, I texted you.
It was brutal.
I can almost quote the text message. I was like, this offensive first half can't be worse than last year. It was unbearable.
Do you remember what I told you?
And you said, "Trust me, it is," or it was, or something like that. I was like,
"Trust me, it's not as bad." We do have a comment from Paula Cunningham. Congrats to Coach AJ Afadale. Maybe now I'll have a real chance to run the chains.
Oh, the chains. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Paul, I'm sure they'd love to have you down. The Mizzou Star Power.
Running the chain gang.
Yeah.
That'd be exciting.
Yeah.
It seems like a tougher job than it looks like.
Man, I can't imagine.
But, okay.
Yeah, so Georgia. Yeah, first half was awful. The best thing about the first half was we got to watch Red Panda at halftime.
Mm-hmm.
Second half, Mizzou came out. I mean, really, Jeremiah came out on fire in the post. Jeremiah Tillman had 3 dunks in the first few minutes.
Mm-hmm.
Jonte had a very, very nice up and under to give Mizzou an early lead in the second half. Those two are so talented when they're on the floor together. Just when they're on the floor, period. They're not sitting on the bench. I don't think SEC's loaded this year, but I don't think you could find, if you're trying to list 10 freshmen, there's not 10 better freshmen in the SEC than them. There's probably not 5 in the SEC better than them.
Yeah.
So they sparked Mizzou in the second half. Georgia makes a little bit of a comeback. Cassius Robertson gets hot, scores 8 straight. Georgia cuts it back to 5 or 8 or something like that. And Kevin Purrier, who struggled the last 7 games, didn't start, had bad air ball in the first half, came back, scored 7 straight, and by then Mizzou had sealed it. So good win, Mizzou's first top 50 RPI win, a win they desperately needed.
Yeah.
I don't think Georgia's going to stay in the top 50 RPI towards the end of the year. They might, but I think they're around 38, something like that right now. But regardless, that's not a game you can lose.
Yeah.
Whether that helps your resume or not, it's just something you don't want to lose.
I think that game, the major takeaway was like Jeremiah Tillman, when he is unchained by foul trouble and just like people clogging the paint, so dangerous.
And I think what was most surprising was that they did against Yante Martin, who is without a doubt the best big in the conference.
Mm-hmm.
He might be one of the best bigs in the country, regardless.
Yeah.
And Jeremiah and Jonte did a tremendous job containing him. They had 9 points and only 2 rebounds. He's averaging nearly a double-double with 19 points a game.
Yeah, Yante Maton he looked, or as you might pronounce it, Yante Martin. If you're a reporter at the AC Star. He looked off.
Yeah, he did.
They showed replays of him on the broadcast, and there was a play against Kevin Purrier where he just was like kind of standing there, facing up to the basket, and you just, instead of making a move or anything, just kind of pulled up. Kevin got a hand on the ball. Yeah. It just looked like Yante was off for some reason, and like Mizzou took full. I mean, it's one thing to get a bad night from a guy like that, but Mizzou took full advantage.
Right.
They totally dominated.
Georgia coach Mark Fox just said after the game, he said, and I'm trying to quote this as best I can. He said something around the sense of like, give Mizzou's defense credit. They did a tremendous job on Yante, but it wasn't all Mizzou. He didn't think Yante lived up to the hype he gets, or he didn't respond to the physicality Mizzou had. He said, and I can quote this for sure because it was probably one of the more memorable things he said in his press conference, is those guys beat us up all game.
Taking shades out of the women's basketball playbook.
Yeah, exactly. That's what you got to do. That's it. Mizzou's strength is the post. No matter how well Jordan Barnett and Cassius shoot, their strength is always in the post. And they were dominant in that way.
Speaking of women's basketball, just real quick, because we did a story on this earlier this week. What did you think of Konzo's comments about the women's game going to quarters?
Yeah, I thought
and things like that.
I thought it was something that men's game should have had a long time ago. I mean, back when I was at PG.
Mm-hmm.
It's just like it makes no sense why they can't go to 4 quarters.
Yeah.
I mean, the NBA does it. It's just another adjustment. Like Council mentioned the fact that like high school kids have to adjust to the college game because they don't have a shot clock. So you make high school kids adjust to the shot clock, but they're still playing halves and they're playing 5 fouls. So then when they go to the next level, they have to adjust to 4 quarters and 6 fouls.
Mm-hmm.
It just doesn't make sense. I don't know why you can't. I don't know why it can just be universal.
Yeah.
There's no real reason why it can't just be universal.
Yeah. The quarters and fouls thing doesn't make a whole lot of sense.
No.
The quarters thing, 6 fouls, I guess I kind of understand not going to that because the college game is shorter than the pro game. So if you give everybody 6 fouls, then you get a game burdened by fouls.
I think Conzo's point with the 6 fouls was just the way the game is played now with hand checking because you can't touch anybody.
Yeah.
So at that point, I mean, Conzo laughed at the end of his kind of little spiel. He goes, we could really use the 6 fouls.
Yeah. Well, he's right about that.
He's right about that.
If a team is going to benefit, it would be Mizzou.
It would, but I think it would be better for the game, and it's just the entertainment aspect of it,
Mm-hmm.
and that's where Conzo kind of got into that, because people want to play defense, and you win games with defense. Defense wins you games, but I mean, when you're hampered with 6 fouls, with 5 fouls, it's just not as entertaining because you're pulling Jeremiah. I mean, Conzo legitimately has to pull Jeremiah Tillman with 1 foul. I mean, you got to pull these guys.
And I understand that, but I will, to your point, to respond to that, and this is a point that Gary Parrish made last year, because John Calipari was talking about fouls too, is there's no rules that say you have to do that.
Right.
You don't have to pull your people with 3 fouls.
Pretty nasty.
Well, if you're the coach, you want to keep them on the floor as long as possible. But that was a point that Don Staley made about Asia Wilson. The women's game last weekend was she was upset and was kind of critical of the refereeing and said, how many players of the year play half the game?
Right.
Well, technically, the refs didn't have any control over how many minutes she played.
Yeah.
But
and there's certain players you can play. Like Cassius against Georgia got into some foul trouble, but Cassius Robertson is a guy who can play. That's a guy who you're looking at. He's not going to get 5 fouls. Cassius doesn't foul much.
Right.
So there's people you can play, and there's people like, not against the same thing as Jeremiah, but there's guys like Jeremiah who are just very physical. You can't play him in minute 17 when he has a foul.
Right.
1 foul. You got to take him out.
Right.
But yeah, I don't know. I don't know if I totally agree. I do think it needs to go to 4 quarters. I think 5 or 6 fouls can still be kind of debated.
I do too. I also like the rule advancing the ball, but that's kind of to be added at another time. I think that's a good rule. I know a lot of people disagree with that.
Advancing out of a timeout?
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a good rule too.
I think the NBA got that one right.
Yeah.
Big game this weekend for the men against Arkansas.
Yeah.
Always a tough place to play. Arkansas has lost 3 in a row and got killed at home by LSU. As bad as a lot of people thought they'd be. But what do you see in this game? Arkansas has they're a senior-heavy team.
Yeah, 2 stellar senior guards.
Yeah.
They showed out against Mizzou last year.
Yeah.
In
Arkansas.
Yeah.
Not in Mizzou, in Columbia, but in Arkansas.
Barford had 23 in the game at Columbia.
Oh, really? Okay.
Yeah, Mizzou won that game, but he had 23.
Right.
So it's Jalen Barford and Daryl Macon, both senior guards, both averaging over 19 points a game in conference play. I believe Barford's like 2nd or 3rd in the SEC in scoring throughout the whole season.
Mm-hmm.
You're talking about a game that's going to test to see Mizzou's guard rotation.
Yeah.
And so far, Mizzou's guards have been fine. I think, personally, I'm going to go on this little quick little tangent. Jordan Geis gets a lot of crap. He's been tremendous. I really think so. I mean, he's not asked to go out there and score a ton.
Yeah.
He's knockdown shooter when he can, plays solid defense. The turnover against Florida, bad. But he's been great. I think people hold over the West Virginia game over his head a lot. And
he was, to be fair, he was good in that game for 25 minutes.
Yes, completely.
Yeah.
I completely agree.
Which that doesn't count for a whole lot in retrospect, but for the reason he got those minutes at the end of the game was because he played so well for the entire game.
So I don't think Mizzou's at a bad spot with Jordan Geis. I think we need to kind of set that scene. Okay.
Hard line on Jordan Geis.
Right. But they're going to get tested against Arkansas. There's 2 very, very good guards. Mizzou's struggling against experienced guards.
Yeah.
So it'll be interesting to see how that goes. I think that's the biggest thing. I don't think Mizzou should have any kind of problem in the post. Defend well, so they'll get shots. I think Arkansas is the 2nd worst team in the SEC in terms of field goal percentage defense.
Mm-hmm.
Mizzou should be fine on offense. It's in terms of defending this team, a team that really needs a win. This would be a top 25 RPI win for Mizzou.
Mm-hmm. And a big road win. I think this was really interesting. I was shocked to see this today. Arkansas, according to Ken Palm, ranks last in the SEC in conference games in forcing steals per game.
Yeah.
Which you would not expect from a Mike Anderson team, but maybe that's why
experienced guards.
But maybe that's why they've struggled so much. They haven't gotten those turnovers that they so depend on. So yeah, I imagine that's just they lost 3 in a row.
Yeah.
But their backs are against the wall.
Yeah.
They're at home playing against a Mizzou squad that, I don't know, if you're looking at rivalries in the SEC, Mike Anderson playing against Mizzou, I feel like Arkansas is going to come out with their heads on fire.
That place is going to be.
Yeah.
So
this is going to to a real challenge.
Yeah, I agree.
For Mizzou.
I agree. I don't now. Again, what we've been talking about. Somebody tweeted me the other day after I tweeted out the bracketology stuff. Mizzou doesn't have a bad loss. This won't be a bad loss if they lose this game, no matter what Arkansas's record tells you. But it'd be a really good win. Yeah,
that's a problem. Mizzou doesn't have many bad losses this year.
But their best win is Georgia.
They don't. They need. I feel like if they're serious about being a tournament team, at some point you have to just get a win you can hang your hat on. This would be a really good one, despite all that's happened to Arkansas this year already.
I agree.
Okay.
Really quickly on the bracketology stuff, just so this thing doesn't go off. Currently 11 seed in San Diego.
So in by the skin of their teeth.
And they're one of the last. So Lenardi breaks it up down as like last 4 to get in. The next 4. Mizzou's like the next 4. So they're like one of the last 8 teams going to my preferred choice, San Diego, and playing Gonzaga. So just putting that out there. There's a ton of work still to do.
Yeah.
But,
for
now, and they believe they've been in every bracketology Lenardi's put out so far. But for now, they're in. Still some work to do.
It's good. And if you live in San Diego or would like to take a trip to San Diego,
I can't.
More power to you. Okay, so the women's basketball team, which is number 12 in the country, coming off wins against South Carolina over the weekend and Vanderbilt last night. Really kind of beat up on a pretty bad Vanderbilt team last night. This
on fire.
The women's team at number 12 in the country, they've just been really, really impressive.
Right.
And the way that they win games, it seems like a formula that really works.
Yeah.
They are just almost every game that they play, more mentally tough. Just they are such a difficult team to figure out because they have scores from Sophie Cunningham, reporter, Jordan Frericks, and Amber Smith, who has become an outstanding player.
And Jordan Javis at 18.
And Jordan Javis, she'll come out and hit some 3-pointers on you too.
Yeah.
They have been such a compelling team since football season's ended. I've spent more time covering the women's team, and they're so compelling. They're so interesting to cover and watch because they score in so many different ways, and they seem to just break teams.
Yeah.
Like they broke South Carolina, which is a number 4 team in the country. They just broke them mentally.
Yeah, and defending champs. You wouldn't expect that.
I mean, Mizzou, they dominated that game. And that was a game that Jordan Frericks didn't really even play that well.
Right.
So one of their, 3 or 4 best players didn't have that great a game, and Mizzou beat the number 4 team in the country.
And then you look at the Vandy game on the road. Sophie doesn't have her best day, but Amber Smith and Jordan Javis combined for 18. This team is just from top to bottom. Like you're looking at Sophie, I think Sophie's one of the 3 best players in the country. I don't think you can convince me there's 3 players better than Sophie Cunningham. But this team is much more than Sophie Cunningham.
I agree. And that's what's made them so dangerous.
Right, exactly. Because you can slow down Sophie. I think Amber Smith is the next star of this program.
100%.
She's very, very good. And then when you're getting Jordan Javis and that kind of shots, and it's nuts because Jordan Frericks and Sierra Porter are tremendous inside.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just complete team from that bottom.
Yeah, and that's the thing too. Like Mizzou, the men, the Mizzou women can kill you with threes if they want to, but their strength, like the men, is on the inside.
Right,
getting the ball to Sierra Porter and getting the ball to Jordan Frericks.
Yeah.
So, next year they'll have Sophie coming back.
It's nuts to think that Sophie can get even better.
Sophie's coming back, Sierra Porter coming back, Amber Smith coming back, and then Haley Troop, that transfers from South Carolina, coming in next year too. Dangerous. They're going to be really, really good this year and next year. But I'm excited to see what this team can do. Yeah. It's a while from now. It's at the end of the month. But Mizzou will go to Columbia, South Carolina, and what might be the best game in the SEC all season. Like the Gamecocks are going they're going to prepare for war.
And that place gets rocking on women's basketball games. It's not even half full for men's games so far. But when the women's team
average over 10,000 for women's games in South Carolina.
So it could be a packed house in there.
The women's basketball SID was saying the other day, one of the reasons why they get so many people is because they have $1 tickets for women's basketball. Yeah. It's like makes me think it's 45-cent beers.
Right.
Like you're just like $1 ticket?
Right.
Like, I have now. I'll cancel
it.
Exactly. Yeah.
I go, if I got a text and said there's $1 tickets to anything, I'd tell, okay, I'm going.
Yep, let's do it.
Yeah.
Country music concert?
I'm not in.
All right.
I'm in.
then it's a really good deal.
I'm in.
Okay. We're coming to the end here.
All right, we still got a low battery flashing.
Yeah. What is your recommendation of the week? Continuing our weekly segment.
I was hoping you would go first.
No. I asked a question, so you go first.
I was trying to get the question in first. I'll go with. Okay, usually it's I think a friend of mine bought yesterday. It's called a Chromecast. Ever had one of these things?
I've seen them.
Yeah, she bought it on a whim. Plug it into your TV, and you can whatever you do on your phone, you can cast straight to your TV.
Yes, I have seen them.
So like you download an app and you can cast literally YouTube, Facebook videos, whatever you want from your phone to your TV. And my thought was like, oh, it's gonna wear down your battery. We had watched like 3 episodes of like this show on Hulu that's like 45 minutes, and if you know what Hulu is, like it has 90-second ads every 10 minutes. It's the worst thing ever.
Oh, it's like actual television.
Yeah, it's like actual television.
How inconvenient.
It's awful. But like we had gone through like 3 episodes, and phone went down like 5%. So it's not bad.
Oh, our card is full.
Now it's not even the battery, but our card is full.
So we might have to convert this into. We'll finish this for Facebook.
Yeah, for our 0 viewers. So I feel like we could just talk up. We have one now. What do we do now?
I don't know.
Do we just cut it off at the end of the recommendation, before the recommendations?
I guess we do.
Yeah.
Okay. So
Facebook.
that's your Facebook. I don't know how many people will end up seeing this on Facebook.
Yeah. Well, that's my recommendation, Chromecast for all the Facebook viewers. And I'm still holding this microphone like we're recording a podcast.
I know. I'm done with it.
Yeah. That's mine. So for the Facebook viewers, what is your recommendation, Dave?
I got a new backpack this week.
Oh.
It's a Magellan backpack. It costs $30 at Academy Sports.
It's nice.
I love it. Because the backpack I used to have, it was like a soft back on like the actual back part was like soft. It wasn't. And so it would go out like 3 feet.
Yeah.
And when I would turn, I would knock stuff over. It's like I had skis on my shoulder.
Yeah.
The new backpack is supported on the back, so it slims it up. I love it. I take it everywhere.
Solid.
Yeah. So new backpack.
Cool.
I hope all our Facebook viewers appreciate our work.
Shout out to this one Facebook viewer, Paul, for coming through, dropping a comment.
Yep.
Happy
to have her and anybody else that tuned in.
Yeah.
You can follow us on Facebook. You can read our work in the paper.
Yep.
I will spare everybody the
plug. I mean, because you're already on our Facebook page.
Exactly. You know how to find us.
You know how to find us. We will be in. We're going to Arkansas this weekend, Mizzou basketball. So we'll have coverage from Arkansas. Probably won't do the podcast afterwards. I don't know.
Yeah, maybe.
Maybe not. Maybe not. We'll see.
We'll take the stuff. We'll get a new card.
Yeah. Stay tuned. We might.
Okay.
As the Porter family.
Well, thanks for listening, and we'll catch up with you again next week. This thing, we're going to have to figure something out with this.